Go. Hello, Leah. Hello, Paul.
Hello.
So, welcome to Under the Hat this evening, live from St Andrews. Gavin's made the trip all the way up, so we're delighted to have you here, Gavin. Delighted to have all of you on board with us as well for Under the Hat this evening. So, Gavin, what does it mean to be in St Andrews to you? You said that this has a special place in your heart, that behind us. It's obviously steeped in history.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I think, whenever anybody talks about this, it's just so spine tingling, the whole place. You just feel it before you get here. And actually, for me, the best thing about Scotland is the road that leads into it, because it's just so exciting when you come up here. I kind of feel like I smell whiskey, I smell great golf. It's just fascinating. But as far as I'm concerned, just some 250 yards in that direction is the location of the image that got me into golf, which was Seve holding his putt on the 18th green in the 1984 Open to shoot his 64, and him fist pumping. It's a proper iconic image, and one that lives long in my memory. So yeah, it is fascinating. Of course, we've got lots of groups of players still coming in. We're hearing cheers from people over there on 17. We've got caddies, and yeah, it just feels like life's a little bit back to normal all of a sudden, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think obviously the purpose of this evening's Under the Hat is to, field a few questions. We've got a few that have come in already, but I think it's a great point, Gavin, just to reflect quickly on Under the Hat. We had the brainwave that we wanted to give back to the instructors around the world that obviously work so hard at the academies, whether it's led by the kids or our facilities, are connected with us going through certification. And David's mantra is always, those who dare to teach must never cease to learn. And we thought it was only right that we try and embrace that and make sure that we give back every week. And I think halfway through the year now, into June, I think we've had some great speakers, we had some great guests, some great conversations, and hopefully everybody appreciates a little bit of what's been shared. And if everybody gets just one little thing from each session, then it's been worthwhile. So I think important for us is really to make sure that everybody here participates. And we'd encourage you to get as involved as you can each week. Keep sending us a list of the speakers that you want on, and we'll try our best to get them engaged for you. It's not about what you want or what I want. It's really about what everybody out there wants, and we're the facilitators. So, Gav, I know you've had a couple of questions come in. Let's maybe dive in and
yeah.
See what,
I think if you do have a question, then just I'm not necessarily going to read it out. You can unmute yourselves and show us your faces, and we can do it that way. But so just have a think if you've got something to ask. I know Frank, you sent some questions in, so be ready to go with that in just a minute. I just wanted to ask you, Stu, before we kind of get going, what's been your highlight so far with our Under the Hat series?
Yeah, it's a tough one. I think personally for me, living in Scotland and building up a connection with Paul Lawrie, I think that was quite special for me to have an Open champion and a Ryder Cup legend on there, but somebody that I know golf means so much to him, and he gives back so much to junior golf and the development. And I thought he was very kind of very forthcoming with his experience with coaches and everything that he's done over the years. So, but we've had so many great speakers, and I think just the interaction from everybody that listens as well, and the questions they ask. And like I always say to you, through the certifications, I always feel that I probably am so lucky that I learn more than maybe I can impart knowledge onto the trainees, because I'm always learning from everybody, and I get to connect with most people like you do, where everybody out there tends to get connect with us or one or two others. And I think, slightly off topic, but part of the uniqueness of being part of the Leadbetter family is you have the opportunity to reach out to everybody. And I think that is massive. And you should really embrace that, because it's tough when you're on your own. You're at an academy, you're teaching, and you kind of by yourself or just with one other person. It's very easy to get stale. And I think once one or two people open the conversation, things tend to snowball and things get really healthy. And we've always wanted to foster a community, really open and a great environment for learning. Hence the new app and the worldwide instructor space, the Ledbetter Kids space, these Under the Hats. We really want you guys to feel part of something special. And I know it means a lot to us.
Yeah, I think just having that support as a coach to me would mean so much. But it is a big community. Everybody's kind of invested in the same outputs and the same goals. We all want to grow the game, protect the future of our sport, and I don't think that we can do it alone. You know, I think we all need help out there. You know, whether you are new to your business or whether you've been in your business for some time. So a couple of highlights for me, I think, on a comedy value, I'm going to pull out the Spartacus moment.
Classic.
How could we possibly forget that? And I think from pure information and wow factor was simply Sean's presentation of what they've been working on with Patrick.
Yeah.
And that was, I thought that was just absolutely fascinating. And I didn't know anything about what they were working on. And, when they pulled that all together and backed it up with some results and some stats, it was brilliant. And I think, I've got a greater interest now in that relationship and that journey, as have so many of our coaches. So that was pretty cool. And I think we've got some pretty cool things lined up over the next few months, haven't we? We've got some major champions lined up and some other experts in the industry. So we're going to keep doing these and, spicing things up as much as we can to bring some great content for you. So we're really looking forward to it.
Yeah. I think when you say comedy value as well, the first Under the Hat we had, and Leah's on the call today, David kindly let it out the bag that Leah had won the Ledbetter Kids Instructor of the Year award before we'd actually told her. So I thought that was quite funny.
He doesn't read memos. He doesn't read memos. So, that was pretty funny. But anyway, Frank, over there in Oregon, if you want to show yourself, buddy, and throw some questions in our direction, then we can do doing that. How are you, mate? You okay?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
Yeah, we're loving that. Actually, we could be in short sleeves here in the home of golf. It's a beautiful evening, and
looks awesome.
I've got the 8 iron. It's actually about an 8 iron and a half to the 18th green. And in my olden days, Frank, that would have been a 9 iron. But
I'll see it when I believe it, or I believe when I see it.
Frank, he wishes. And did you know from the left-hand side to the right-hand side of Granny Clark's Wines, 129 yards. And on the old course, every double green, if you look at which holes they are, it totals the number 18. So there you go. A couple of fun facts. And there's over 230,000 rounds of golf played on the 7 courses here at St Andrews Links. Sure.
Wow. Last time I played was 2007. Shot a nice 74 from the white tees, I think it was.
From the white tees? That's not bad.
Yeah, whatever tees they had open for us. I got lucky and played with some of the local people that worked on the course, so I was just following them and easy peasy.
Excellent. So thank you for sending over your questions in advance. We've got a whole long list of them, Frank, which is fine. But why don't you fire away from the top and let's see what we can do for you.
Yeah. So as a student that hasn't coached in a professional manner yet, I'm just kind of curious about the day to day and kind of curious about your point of view, like on how do you offset the time for learning with the time for income? Like, how do you balance that aspects of coaching?
Yeah. For me, Frank, that's a great question because I'm probably the worst person at balancing my time. For me, I normally balance my time for everybody else. And I think that comes with too much of an empathic nature. But yeah, I definitely have committed over the past year I've signed up for Blinkist. I love the concept of reading books, but in whole reality is I hate sitting down and reading a book, if I'm being totally honest. So Blinkist is great. It summarizes a book in 15 minutes. I walk the dog for 45 minutes every morning. I can knock out at least 2 books. I tend to look at a lot of stuff that I think will help me with the job I do and my own personal stuff. So I look a lot at performance habits, performance coaches, podcasts as well. I know, Gavin, you've listened to High Performance Podcast, and they have some great speakers on there. This week, Gareth Southgate, the England manager, was on. Really good about a performance culture. But yeah, I think when it comes to looking at your future income, you have to go, how can I be much better at what I do? How can I feel more confident in what I do? But how can I be more credible as well? And it's not about getting certifications and amassing loads of certificates. It's about being able to, really impact the people that you teach. So I think you have to balance that. And if you set yourself trying 2 hours a week, I think that's ample and it's quite realistic, but blocked 2 hours where you sit down and go, this is actually my time for learning. But I would say your learning has to have a real strategy behind it. What's your end goal with your business or your coaching? What are you really looking to try and do? And everything that you do at the moment to increase your learning should be really helping you towards that end goal. Because a lot of people go, oh, I love the idea of that I heard last week. So it might be for me, oh, I love that idea of looking at all the new shafts and the technology and go, well, that's good to know, but that's not really directly helping me being the educator that I want to be in a specific area. So, try and be really smart about what you're trying to look at learning. Obviously, our certification, as you know, covers a lot of different areas. It gives you a baseline. But then after that, that's when your real learning will go, I'm going to focus a little bit more down this route. What about you, Gav?
I think, some good points there, but I think that learning is food for your career. And, much like we eat to get the energy to do what we do from day to day, I think in terms of your career and your business, it needs the food to grow. And that learning helps you do that. It helps you feel more empowered. It helps you feel like you build solutions for the people that you interact with. And I appreciate the fact that you do need a strategy to your learning. And it's not necessarily where what you do on a day-to-day basis will have an impact on a lesson you teach later that particular day, but it fulfills the void that we all have in terms of our knowledge bank. And I think that it helps keep us sane, it helps keep us smart, helps keep us really fresh in our approach to coaching. And with the business that we're in, that is forever evolving and forever changing, new philosophies, new points of view cropping up all over the place, we have to be on top of that. And you bet your bottom dollar that most of the people we teach are spending time on the internet. They are researching, they're watching nonsense, they're going to come to you and they want clear guidance, so you need to be well informed to stay on top of it. And like I say, education is food for your career. I think that's pretty much where I get from.
I would add one last thing. If you're coaching a lot of players that are maybe higher handicappers, or you're coaching players that are newer to the game, try and make sure that you do something that you've never done before, so you can stay in tune with what it's like to learn a new skill. I think sometimes when we're all good at golf, we're all professionals at it, we're all kind of experienced, it's very easy to forget how difficult it is for a newer golfer. So if you have that experience still at the forefront of your mind, I think it's a really good thing to do.
Cool.
Thank you. That's been
Next
pretty
up,
great.
Frank, you've got a long list of questions.
Yeah, I think that covered a few of them at least. But so I'm kind of curious about some of the scheduling tools you guys use. Is that just the Outlook calendar or Google Calendar or
paper diary, buddy? Paper diary.
Paper.
No, I think let's empower the students. Let's make things easy. Let's not make it difficult for people to spend money with us. All right. So we're trying to embrace technology that gives our customers the freedom to do what they want when they want to do it. And as much as we have the need for scheduling, there's got to be a need for payment as well. And that all has to be fairly seamless. It can be very painful, but once you get the right platform and the right systems in place, then it's a bit of technology that underpins your business and makes life a lot easier for you. So there are very few systems, actually, very few, believe it or not, that do everything that we need it to do as coaches. They all do some things really well, other things not. And it's, I've built a platform before with some colleagues, and it's been really difficult. The challenge of building technology is expensive. And we work in a niche industry, so that's also a challenge itself. But in terms of actual technology, then that's a conversation probably to have a little bit more offline. But yeah, we need to make sure that it checks all the boxes for sure.
Yeah. I would just add to that, the other week where we had Spencer Dennis from Coach Now, and I thought he had a really valid point, and obviously he aimed it at Coach Now, but whatever platform you're using, if you can find one that you can communicate most things in just that platform, it saves you a lot of time and effort. Because you know what it's like, you'll have students, will phone you, send you a text, we'll send you a WhatsApp, and we'll try and contact you in Coach Now. You don't know which one's coming when, and then you're scouring around your phone. And he said a really good point is try and get all of your students to communicate through one channel in one medium. If you can, he said it saved him a lot of headache, and that was really why he came up with the Coach Now platform, was to try and save him the headache of emails and texts and WhatsApps and FaceTimes, just to try and get it in one space. So whatever you do, try and channel everything that makes your life easier, and make sure, and especially if you've got a group of students and you want to share information, try and have a group space, a little bit like our new app. It makes directing communication easier. One click, it goes out to everybody. You don't have to mass email, worry about bounce backs. It just makes life a bit simpler. Do we want to carry on with Frank? I'm sure Leah's got like 20 questions lined up. And Paul and Rohan may have a couple.
You know what? Let's just give a quick shout out to Rohan in India. What time is it, Rohan, with you, buddy?
It's 1:45 at night, 1 a.m.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a bit of a gold star for you. Well done. Well done.
Thank you so much.
But welcome. Rohan is probably the newest out of the group on tonight, and welcome to the family so far, Rohan. I think we're just really getting going with you, and I hope you enjoy the interaction and mingling with some of our more experienced under the hatters. So yeah, if anyone else has a question, we'll come back to you, Frank, in a minute with the rest of your questions. But if anybody else wants to ask anything, then fire away.
I'll go. There's always something for me. Obviously, I spoke to you a little bit about it last week, Gavin. I've had a few juniors, one in particular, really experience failure to the lowest point possible. It was last week. I mean, it was horrendous. I felt so awful. And just some advice on how best to deal with a kid when they get to that crisis point. So a little bit of context and backstory. He has dyslexia, a few traits of ADHD, but I've been working with him since September, and he's normally amazing for me. But this particular week, we took him out on the course. It's only his second time out on the course, and he just lost it, absolutely lost it, to the point where he was crying, club throwing, which obviously wasn't very safe and just disruptive for everybody else trying to play their golf. And is there anything I could have done to maybe have stopped that, and then to stop it spiraling, and then, you know, how best to deal with it after it's happened? So all I did was speak to his dad, who ironically is the manager of Fletchingly, which doesn't make this easier, and he is a professional. Of course, it would happen to me. Obviously, just spoke to him. His dad's proper cool. He's not pushy. He was quite calm. Wasn't hard on him, and just whether I did the right thing. I mean, he massively improved as the week went on, but I'm sure I'm going to have that again with someone, either him or someone else in the future. How best to deal with that?
Okay. Great question. Great point. Do you really want to avoid those situations?
Not necessarily. This was just really bad. I'm all for they've got to fail. They've got to get to that point. But obviously, being in a group setting, it was difficult with other children there, and how to make sure he wasn't going to harm himself or anybody else, but still trying to get those lessons in there. I don't know how I could have calmed down quicker. I don't know.
Yeah, I think we first of all have to make sure we maintain a safe environment for the kids to operate in. And when I talk about operating, I think it's behaving with their own personalities in their own way. They're free to be able to do that. That's really important. But equally, I've thought a lot about your situation last week, and it's very much in context with, the things I'm researching and studying right now. And these aren't situations that you want to avoid. They're situations you want to embrace. And that kid, in this context, actually stands the most to learn and benefit from him being at the trough of a particular situation or moment. And as coaches, we have to hold the hands of the kids that we're coaching and, escort them through the process of learning and acquiring new skills. And there are always backstories to every single child and student that comes through our facility. So yes, we have to appreciate that. But we appreciate that in terms of how far we take it before we step in. But you've got to have the presence of mind as a coach to continue to stand back and observe before jumping in, because you might miss the golden nugget by jumping in too early. And I know how conscientious you are as a coach. I know how much you care. And I also know how difficult it is for you to continue to hold back and not jump in too early, but you're getting better at it. We're all getting better at it. This isn't something that I've been doing for a particularly long time. This is relatively new research that suggests that we have to do this if we want to create these kids who are engaged in the sport for a very long time. Let me put it this way, right? For me, this whole notion of things needing to be fun is fairly shallow. I think we've spoken about that before. And you've got to have substance to what you do when you're coaching children. And that substance is very much about the journey that you lead these kids on when they're acquiring new skills. These kids have to feel like they're achieving something. They have to feel like they've been down here in order for them to feel how good it is to be up here. And when they feel that, when they've come up out of the trough and they're extricating themselves from the pit of doom, right? That feeling they get, that feeling of accomplishment, that feeling of satisfaction is something that you cannot give them. It's only something that they can get by themselves. And if you jump in too early, then you miss that potential moment and it probably won't happen. So the difficulty is letting things ride out. The skill for you as the coach is creating the environment where that is facilitated and you're doing everything you can to create these outcomes. But the biggest change in coaching that I see from all of us is this ability to stand back and just hold back a little bit longer, just until we can feel the kids getting into this sweet spot, that I've often referred to. It doesn't feel like a sweet spot because it feels like it can be quite traumatic. But it's just the fact that the kids are so frustrated at something that they're anxious, they're angry perhaps, but they've got to feel that if they're going to feel these senses of self-accomplishment and satisfaction when they acquire a new skill. You got anything to add to that?
No, I think you've nailed it, Gavin. I think, you know, we're all guilty sometimes of jumping in, but I think, Leah, your personality is probably very much like mine, where we almost care too much and we'll stress ourselves out probably more than the kid was at home that night. But I think the way that you are as a coach, the kid will know that you're there for them. You do care.
Yeah.
Yes, they've had a rough day. Even though I'm at the bottom of the pit and I'm really struggling and I've had a bad day and I've experienced failure, I've still got people in my camp that are there for me, and I'm sure you'll offer the right guidance at the right time. And it's the art of coaching, is when do you step in, when do you step out, when do you say something, when do you just shut up and be quiet and let them get on. How much interaction do you need? What language do you use? Do you speak more quietly? Do you speak more aggressively? There's so many of those soft skills that are very hard to teach, and it comes with experience, and that's why you've just got to get out there and get yourself in the pit of learning, which is why you're asking the questions. So no, that's all I have, Gav.
Absolutely. And I think it goes back to Frank's first question, really, which was about, you know, continuing to learn and develop your skills, because, you know, they're wonderful moments. I don't think that what you experienced last week with him, I don't think that is the norm. That's going to be a little bit more of an extreme situation. But the more you learn about particular strategies and methods, I think the more comfortable you are as a coach in implementing these. And that then has a very tangible effect on the outcome of certain situations, right? You feel more confident in your ability to be able to let things roll out a little bit longer, as an example. So I think that's really valid. And yes, I think you're right there, because we can call her Mama Leah now. You know, she's like, you know, all the kids just, they gravitate towards her, and she doesn't have a moment's peace when she's coaching, God bless her. But, you know, she does care too much in many situations. And you have to detach yourself to an extent from that to allow these moments to occur and to happen, as painful and as difficult as that is. It doesn't mean you don't care about letting that happen. Actually, it probably means that you're able to care a little bit more, because you're a bit more outcome focused and you understand the process more.
Yeah, it is. It's tough to watch players in front of you fail, because the concept of having golf lessons is you want people to improve and succeed. Coaching for a long time has always been give them the answers, give them the solution, get them better, get them hitting it better, and off they go. And you go, oh, I feel valued for the money they've spent and the time they've had, and they feel as though they've had 60 minutes, they've paid me X, and they've hit the ball better. But can they really take it with them? Is it going to be long term? And it's not about how much you tell them, for how many minutes you teach them. It's about understanding what's best for them to develop.
Absolutely. I think you hit the nail on the head with that one. So cool. Let's move on to the next question, if anyone has anything. Otherwise, we're going to go back to Frank with your third question. Frank, away you go, pal.
Let me see. I think we touched upon some of the learning things that you mentioned there before, Stuart. I was kind of going into like what type of subjects and how do you schedule in that for learning. I think you kind of touched on that. I suppose maybe some of the day-to-day, what it looks like for coaching as I go into coaching. You know, maybe that's something you guys can visualize for me in a broad way, or specific maybe.
Yeah, I would, from my side there, Frank, I would say, you know, it's preparation and planning is massive. A lot of coaches are really underprepared for their sessions, especially junior stuff that requires a certain amount of planning. You know what you've got in your head, Gavin, Leah, Barney, you guys know better than anybody that the sessions don't always go to plan, but you need a structure that you go, right, this is roughly what we're going to do. And the worst thing in the world, the kids pick up if you're not organized. The kids pick up that you're scrambling around. You can hide it for so long, but you'll get found out. But you be you. you can be over prepared. I overthink things all the time. Takes me a bit longer to get the decision, much to Gavin's dismay. Gavin underthinks things, but that's okay. We work well as a team. But it's one of those things. I think you just got to be prepared. You've got to know what you're trying to do. But unless you know the students, I think you don't know what you're getting half the time. So maybe introduce a questionnaire for your students. Google Docs and all these things are great, so that you at least have a bit of a background when they're coming to you. Something I've started doing with newer people, not that I teach full time, but I want to have a phone call with them for 5-10 minutes. I want to have a little bit of information. What are your goals? What do you want to achieve? Why do you want to achieve it? How much time do you have to practice? Do you practice? Do you play more? Do you want to win tournaments? Do you want to be a better social golfer? Then that guides me in terms of what really I'm probably going to do in that lesson, how I'm going to communicate with them, how extensive the work that we're going to do is going to be. And you've just got to remember, we're in the customer service industry. People play golf mostly for a hobby. It's their spare time, it's their enjoyment, it's their disposable income. We can get too serious about it ourselves because we want everybody to do the best they can, which is great. But somebody might just want to reduce the slice by 5 yards and hit it 5 yards further. Or somebody might just want to say, well, that's my only time to get out the house. I want a golf lesson. I quite like being around you. I want to chat. I've had a number of people when I worked at the club in the northeast of England, the Ledbetter Academy. A bunch of the members just used to come for a chat and a coffee, really, and hit some balls. And that's fine if that's what they want. It's maybe not the ideal lesson scenario for some people. But again, that's like your identity as well. Who do you want to be as a coach? Do you want to work with club golfers? Do you want to work specifically with juniors? Do you want to work with tour pros? Do you want to work with a full range? You've got to kind of identify a little bit of what makes you happy as well. So hopefully that makes a bit of sense there, Frank.
Cool. Yeah, thank you. Definitely plenty of time to digest this.
Do you have anything to add? Or?
I think you summed that up pretty well, to be fair. Yeah, I'm not going to second guess you on that, except you just are a bit slow in your thought processes and stuff, overthinking. But anyway, we'll get to that another time.
By the way, he's walking home tonight.
I've got my tea time at 9:40 p.m. I'm good.
Can I just add something onto that with the planning that might help you, Frank, if you are doing juniors, is using a whiteboard or paper and literally write a list of things that you're doing for the lesson. One, that makes you plan beforehand, but two, it helps the kids know what's going on, especially if you do happen to have any children that are new and they might have an underlying learning difficulty or something that you're not aware of or don't know the depth of it. That is really useful for them if they can at least see, what's coming next. There's no surprises or anything like that. Or, mine's got rules on as well. So if they're being a bit naughty, just tap the ball where the rules are and they kind of know what's going on. So that can help with the planning. And I think Stuart's dead right with kids. You've got to be prepared for chaos or change, but have it maybe one main plan and then two sort of vague backup plans in case it suddenly changes, like the weather or something. I find that really useful. If you get there just a little bit early, write it down on the board, then everyone knows what's going on. Plus it helps you remember as well, so then you don't have to keep it all up in there for that whole session. You can just look and track where you are.
Preparation is certainly key for sure. It is. Just want to touch on something there, Frank, as well. Your coaching DNA is something that you already have, or you probably don't know you've got it, but it's basically your core beliefs on how to play the game of golf, right? And I think that every coach needs to embrace that to an extent, and that really shines through in the coaching programs that you put together. I don't believe in giving you a program that I've built for you to teach your children. I don't think that works, because that's something that I wrote for what I believe in. Now, I believe in the power game. I believe in putting. So my academy is going to be based around kids being athletic, kids hitting the ball as far as they can, and kids being able to putt. You know, can they find a green in regulation with a 5-iron? Not a hell's chance. You know, but no, I jest. But you know, you've got to develop your own DNA. So, what the ratio looks like between long game and short game or whatever is your call, right? You've got to put that together, and it might also be facility dependent.
Yeah.
You know, I worked at a facility for 5 years that didn't have floodlights, so you know, from end of October through to mid-March, you know, it's very difficult to do long game for evening classes because the kids can't see what's going on. So, you know, we were forced into doing shorter game during those periods when it was dark. And, you know, that's really how our program evolved at that point. But I would write down what you think the best way to play the game of golf is. You know, it will go back to how you've been taught. You know, how did Andy Hinson teach you back in the day? And, you know, just understanding where your successes came from as a player, where you feel like you've seen success from people you've watched, and write down where you think that the game is played, and that's how you develop your own coaching DNA. And then you if you like that and you want your students to play in that vein, then go for it.
I think on the back of that, Gav, I was listening to a podcast this week, and they said where there's success, there's clues. So it's
David's very good at that, isn't he? Actually,
Yeah.
we were talking about that earlier. Actually, how David picks out people who have been successful in many departments, and you know, we were talking about Calvin Peete, and Calvin Peete being an ace swinger of sorts.
Yeah.
But he simply picked out Calvin Peete because he was one of the straightest drivers on tour at the time, right?
Yeah, kind of fascinated by how he was one of the straightest drivers, what made him tick. And again, it's that inquisitive mindset. And, you know, going back to that point that you said about writing down, like your golf academy for kids would be this. You know, part of the certification as well, when you kind of cross back across to my side of the pond there, Frank, is, you know, we'll talk a little bit about who are you as a coach. You know, sit down and write your mission statement almost. If I had my own academy, what does it stand for? What are my values? What environment am I creating? What culture am I creating? You know, is that the same as what you would have for the kids? You probably find it is. You know, what you're doing with the kids will be the same as you would want for the adults as well. So, you know, it's powerful to do that stuff. And I know you've already been doing it through the Leadbetter Kids stuff as well.
Yeah, perfect.
Cool.
It's easy to get distracted around here, isn't it?
It's a good job it's not pouring down. I was worried I was going to have an umbrella and covering the microphone. But we've managed to find a bit of shelter next to the 1st and 18th. So we're hopefully not too much wind for you guys.
Cool. Anyone else got anything they want to chat about? Cool. All right.
I would kind of ask the group as well, if what one thing are you doing this year outside of anything with us at Leadbetter? What one thing are you doing to help your career and help your learning? I'd be interested for my own development to find out what everybody's trying to do to help themselves or develop themselves. So obviously for Frank and Rohan, they've just started, and Paul, you guys are on board with us. So you got to discount that and go, what else am I doing? And it doesn't have to be within golf. It can be anything else.
I'm intimidated by Paul because Paul knows so much more about everything to do with life than me. And it's just like, when I talk to Paul on the phone and stuff, I'm like, my goodness me, it doesn't seem right that I'm trying to, you know, work through stuff that we've written for him to learn from, because I feel like he knows it already.
Leah, what about for you? You've obviously gone through Leadbetter Kids. I'm going to pick on you because you love to talk. You've gone through. Was that a bit harsh?
You can't say that.
Well,
We've got daylight for another 2 hours, so you're good to go.
So no, but you have to take it to another level. No, Leah, you obviously Leadbetter Kids. You know, you recognise as Leadbetter Kids Instructor of the Year. You've always had an amazing attitude, dedication. You know, you light up the room whenever you're in it, so it's always great to have you with us. But what are you doing now since you've done your certification and you're kind of back out of lockdown and back coaching, and where you at?
Busy. Coaching every day. No, so I've obviously made a sort of start on the main certification. I will jump back into it when I get a chance. Obviously, in the UK, from my perspective right now, I've had a lot of lessons to catch up on. I'm making use of this amazing weather we've had and just love being back at work. But for me, I know my learning style is by doing. So reading books is a challenge for me, as I'm dyslexic, so I need videos, audio, anything like that, or the best thing for me is doing. So I'm very fortunate where I am placed at Bletchingley. I'm surrounded by some really top quality pros like Steve Furlonger, Spain, Scotland, Josh White. We've got a guy called Billy Ivan who's about to start, who's stack and tilt. So what I make a habit of doing is every now and again either shadowing a lesson of theirs or having a lesson from them, and again that kind of puts me back into the shoes of my clients. So I'm the one being taught. I try and clear my mind of anything that or the knowledge I have and just literally go, right, let's hear what you think, then add what I think, and then go from there. But working with Steve Furlonger has been awesome because he obviously has the force plates. He's just about to get a 3D K-vest as well. So I call him Mr. Gadget. We're very different. My iPad is as much as gadgetry I go to, but it's good seeing from his perspective and learning about the forces. So I'm very much with Gavin about power game, try and get off the tee as far as you can and have a reasonable putting game. For me, those are the two ends that hold you up as a player. And doing that, not only has my golf improved, I've just learned so much more about body movement and how to use the ground a lot more, and then how to water that down to put to the juniors. So, I'm not going to talk about,
I think
but just, talking about how to feel like body raises up in the backswing to then come down to then come up the other side. I just get that into the kids now with their warm-up games, getting them jumping around a lot. Probably see my latest Instagram, throwing the balls, slamming the ball, because then that rolls over into their actual golf swing. So that's really, really helped me. And with being active doing stuff, I've actually played a tournament 2 weeks ago, the first time I've played competitively in 3 years, and I need to be doing that more. I'm also responsible for coaching the under 15 girls Surrey team, and if I'm not competing, how does that look to them? They're not going to listen to me and or think that I know how they're feeling. I was so out of touch with it, whereas now I feel like I'm back in it. And last week the session was all based around me and my experience in that tournament. What did I do to prepare? What happened during? What have I learned from it? And then what steps am I now going to put in to prepare for the next one? And I think that session went really well for them to actually go, oh, okay, Leah messed up on a few holes and that happened to her, then okay, that's what's going to happen to me, but actually we can work with that. So for me, that's the best way I learn, is by doing and questioning and surrounding myself by lots of different people, and chance of my luck, try and get in for a few lessons with someone, because the more you know, or different bits and pieces, the more it helps you, or helps me when I'm teaching someone. And then I've always refused to be just this one box coach, like a stack and tilter or plain truther. I think you need to have each golfer's different. Stack and tilt's great for probably your older player, not as mobile, whereas someone who wants to hit it further, they're going to be more forces with Steve stuff and moving up and down. So yeah, that's kind of where I am and how I deal with things. Ring Gavin constantly as well with questions, and that's about it.
I think there's a couple of points from me there, Leah. I think, being a coach that's very aware of lots of different areas is massively important. You can never be an expert in every area, but I think you have to have a good understanding. And if somebody does really need to go down the biomechanics and the forces, you've got somebody in your camp, you can go, well, actually, I need you to go and speak with this person because they're far more experienced, and that's what you need. And that you park, as we all talk about, park the ego, do what's right for the student. And that's where coaching a lot of the time gets messed up, because it's my player, he's mine, he does well because I tell him what to do, and nobody else can coach him. And it's like, well, actually, if he needs mental help and I can't help at that point because it's gone past a level, then I maybe need to go find somebody or know somebody. So, surrounding yourself with a good team as well. And I think David's been, like that. You look at Champions Gate, he has a fantastic team around him. There's lots of different people in lots of different areas. We're not all that fortunate at our locations, but through the Ledbetter network and the family, there's enough people that have got massive expertise in these areas that you can connect with. And you talk about the power game and kids learning to hit it further. I couldn't agree more. I was at the Women's British yesterday, watching the players. 6,900 yards, Leah. It's set up at for the stroke play qualifying at Kilmarnock Barassi. Last year was played at 6,004, so it's jumped up 500 yards. And the girls make it look like not a piece of cake. It's a tough track, but they're not struggling to reach the greens, put it that way. And a lot of the top players that would whip it easily past me off the tee. So that's okay, Gav. But it's one of those things that I think the kids do need. If they want to learn to compete and they want to compete at that level, because a lot of the times the national stuff around all of the countries, they play the national stuff at quite a short yardage. The Scottish women's was last weekend. That was played at 5.9. So it's 1,000 yards shorter. But then it's a big jump for the players when they enter that international stage. So trying to prepare them to see what the future would look like. But again, it's all age and stage. So waffling on, but some bits and pieces.
No, very valid for sure. Cool. Rohan, did you have a question?
Hi, Gavin. Hi, Stuart. How are you guys doing?
Good. Couldn't be better.
I know, it's great.
I am envying you guys. I'm envying you guys. That's like the Mecca of golf, and I don't know when will I get a chance to probably visit that. But from India, I can say thanks for this opportunity. I probably cannot be more. How do I express myself? I'm feeling really grateful to both of you that I can see something like that on the screen.
Well, to be fair, you should. We're not going to tune in 30 minutes because we're going to be about 250 yards that way, enjoying a pint of the local ale at the Jigger Inn. So that's something to behold. And we might take a picture and send it across just so everybody can get a flavour.
Please do, please.
Yeah. So, Rohan, what did you want to ask?
Yes. So what I want to know is, I want to know, how do we structure a golf lesson? How do I start? So, for example, a student has come to me who's probably a brand new student. How do we start? Like for me, I always start from green to tee. I basically will teach somebody how to putt. Then I'd probably teach somebody how to chip and then probably go long. But how does Ledbetter, or probably how do you guys experienced coaches over so much of years of experience, how do you structure a golf lesson?
You want to go first or me, Gav?
Well, I could talk for hours on this topic, to be fair, Rohan, but I tell you what, I'll try and keep it brief. We cannot be seen to present the solution before we ask the question.
Right.
So by that, I think you're on the right track in terms of where you're starting. If I have a raw beginner, irrespective of the age, now that has never played before, first thing we're doing is going out on the golf course. That's the very first lesson, because I need to create the experience of what golf is all about before I start to tell them what to do, because it just doesn't make any sense to do it any other way, right? You know, I know coaches out there who started off with a raw beginner. You know, okay, right, well, can you stand like this? I want you to hold it, right? Get your left hand on top, see 2 knuckles, thumb down the right hand side, get your right hand to cover the left hand thumb, etc., etc. It's a load of nonsense at that point, because they just can't relate to it. You know, we're trying to teach the game of golf, and I think that also has to be at the forefront of our minds. What are our roles here? let's get this person out onto the golf course playing golf as quickly as possible. So the experiential environment that we create, I think, is paramount in the early stages. You want to create an inquisitive student, a student that wants to know what to do, wants to know how to get better. And I just love the idea of us becoming efficient in our coaching so that we're responding directly to the questions that we're being asked, right? As soon as a student asks the question, we're going to respond directly to that question, and the student's going to get the right answer because that's what they're looking for.
Right.
And if you create the right environment, then you know you're going to steer that student on the right path at the right time. Okay, but I did keep it brief, so I'm going to call it there because I know you're not too far away from that.
No,
concept either.
no, absolutely agree. And you know, taking them on the course doesn't mean setting them up with a 495-yard ball par four.
No, I'm talking 30 yards. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, so it's one of those things that, you know, I think we had this last week when we talked with Graham McDowell, and I couldn't agree more with what he said. He said, you know, find out what inspired the new golfer to come to have a golf lesson or come to you. And if it's a young kid that's watched golf live with their dad or their mom and they've gone to a tournament, it's like, yeah, they've seen a moment that's inspired them to say, I want to try this game. Try and recreate that scenario in that moment and let them experience what they've seen on the TV. So like you said, it's like get them on the course, create, if it was this all par three, take them over a par three and let them play a par three. Experience, as Leah said, get them to hit a driver, experience the feeling of hitting it far, and make sure that they kind of say, oh, wow, look, we'll catch one, and just let them see a bit of success. But what you talked about from the hole backwards, it's an easy way to see success because you can start them off with a 1, 2, 3 foot putt. They'll hole a few with whatever they do, and they'll go, oh, wow, I hold it. Let's go, that's the objective of the game. Okay, now let's go a little bit further back and graduate it. But don't lose sight, I think, for me, with new golfers of why they've come to you and how they've got the inspiration. Obviously, an experienced golfer is going to come to you and tell you, almost like going to the doctor's surgery, this is what's happening, this is what's going on, ball's doing this. So you're working from the ball flight backwards. Okay, so you're watching, is that happening consistently? And then you're kind of working out your ball flight laws, going, well, how's the consistency of strike? Is the ball starting left? Okay, yeah, I know the club face is closed. Is the ball now curving right? Well, that tells me the path is going further left. All right, why is this stuff happening? So then you go ball flight back to impact back to the next phase, and working your way back and trying to find kind of what might be the root cause. I was chatting with Gavin at lunchtime today. Often the root cause is not just the technical, it can be their conceptual awareness. You know, if you've got a player that thinks that impact is kind of from here and it's like that, you trying to get them into this position. If they believe they've got to get under the golf ball, you're fighting a losing battle. You can have them do the best practice swings, the best drills. You can have them in slow motion looking great. But when they go to hit the ball, they're going to revert back to what they believe they need to do. So I would say you always, with an experienced golfer or a handicapped golfer, somebody that's got the ability to move the ball from point A to point B, challenge the concept first. Make sure you understand. Do you understand how the club face needs to be orientated? Do you know where the club needs to travel? Do you know how to strike a golf ball? Can you just show me what you think is a good impact? You'll soon see whether they're on the right track or not. And then that'll tell you if you actually need to educate a little bit or whether it is something a bit more mechanical. And again, it's not always about drills or exercises. Just by changing, it was funny, we presented today to a college here just outside of St Andrews, and we talked about, and Gavin did an exercise with the kids and, you know, had a little bit of constraints around it. Just adding constraints into how they practice a head cover outside of the ball. Say to somebody, how would you not hit the head cover? How would you keep the club on the inside of it if somebody's steeping over the top? Sometimes somebody can self-organize quite quickly and change. And they go, actually, to do that, I need to get my body to do this. And you go, oh, that's interesting. Go on, show me that. And the player then owns the feeling rather than us saying, you have to do this, you have to do that. You know, I think it's one of those things that you just have to kind of be quite creative and really think about all the different options. Does that make sense?
Fantastic. Perfectly. Thank you so much.
Of course, we could talk forever on that, Rohan, and you're just getting started. So just keep making a long list of your questions, buddy, and we'll get through them all.
100%.
Probably got time for one more, Gav.
Yeah, we've got time for one more.
Paul, do you have any questions? He's listening intently. You're on mute, I think, Paul.
There, I think I got it. Okay. No, I've stayed fairly quiet because I'm doing this meeting on iPhone, and I'm driving. I'm pulled off to the side right now, and so I've tried to pay attention, but I certainly appreciate the opportunity. I may be able to connect. I'm not sure, Renee. I think it was, who has the attention deficit hyperactive junior. I've had a couple of them, and maybe we can kind of chat afterwards, or another day, and I can tell you some of the experiences I've had with the particular kid with a diagnosis that you're talking about. Gavin, following our last conversation, I really did a lot of thinking, goals and that kind of thing, and haven't progressed as quickly as I should be at this point, because I dove in to say, how do I find my little niche here at my club, where the elephant in the room is Jim McLean with all the juniors and everything else. And I kind of found a little niche for the summer here, where I threw together very quickly a program for the kids who are getting ready to try out for either middle school or varsity. And I've got a 6-week clinic that I put together very quickly, and it's ready to kick off in about a week. And that's where a lot of my attention has been over the course of recent week or two. But I appreciate the support from you guys, and enjoy the podcast Under the Hat. I really appreciate this.
Very good, Paul. Thank you.
Yeah, no, we appreciate you, Paul. I think I've not had the pleasure of chatting a lot with you. I know you've been working a lot with Gavin up to now, but he's had nothing but positive comments to say about how engaged you are, and same for Frank, Rohan, and obviously Leah as well. So I think, big thing from us is that all of you hopefully see what we're trying to do is create the best environment possible, give you all the opportunity to keep advancing your learning. And I think that for me comes down to everything that we stand for as coaches, is presenting the best environment that we can and the opportunities at the right time for the players, but also challenging the players to develop those behaviors and those cultures that we know are important to them succeeding, not only in golf but in life. And golf still teaches so many life skills, which is obviously a mainstay of Leadbetter Kids. And you think about all the history and the tradition that's just behind us here, all the moments of the Opens and the R&A Clubhouse and what the R&A do for amateur golf. You think, well, honesty, integrity, the tradition of the game are something that we embrace on a daily basis when we're working with players, whether it's adults or juniors. So, yeah. But no, I think we'd like to obviously thank you for joining us live from St Andrews. I'm probably fortunate that this is right on my doorstep. It's 25 minutes from the house, so I never get bored of seeing it. I either park the car where it's parked just behind the caddy's house where we've got the iPad under today, or I park it next to the Jigger Inn, not because I want to go for a pint, but I like to walk up 17 and 18 and into the town, or have a pint. But yeah, it never gets old. It's always inspirational. And I remember the first time I was coaching at the back of the range here at St Andrews 5 or 6 years ago, and it was a bit of a wet day, and one of the boys that was in the national squad was like, this is a waste of time, and said, just stop there, turn around and look at the 17th tee, look at the sheds. It says, look over there at the R&A clubhouse. I said, if you can't get inspired to hit balls here today, then you may want to like look at why you play golf. I says, have a little think about it. But for me, it's got a special place in my heart. It's been a pleasure to be able to do it live, especially with Gavin here. It's been a while since we've seen each other with lockdown and everything. So, yeah, guys, hopefully you've enjoyed it. We look forward to seeing you next week. And as always, any questions, reach out. Paul, we'll connect you with Leah and make sure you guys can chat. And yeah, have a great day, the rest of you. Rohan, get some sleep. Yeah. Until
Thanks,
next
guys.
week. Thank you,
Yeah.
Gavin.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Take
Have a
care.
good one.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.